want to remind you that Sprint in Oklahoma has laid off 1,000 employees just before Christmas. So let's remember that. Mary goes for a job tomorrow at MidFirst Bank to run a computer system there. So let's pray that she gets that job. It would be real nice. Well, how are you? And I know that you're doing well, and all the candles and the bubble light. The bubble light represents the joy of God as it bubbles up in us. That's what the bubble light represents. Now, we are in a study, and in the bulletin it said 3. I say 5. I don't know where I am. Wherever we are, this is another part of this Secrets of New Testament Healing. The secrets of the New Testament healing. Why were these words recorded? Why have they come down 2,000 years to us? Over 2,000 years. Why? Why have they been so revered? Because they're secrets within what Jesus did. Now, at this point that we're at right now in our study, Jesus has performed many miracles. Now, we're actually in a study of the book of Luke. Each one of these miracles has a particular meaning, and each points to the work of God in individuals. And each one of these healings reveal the idea of God and man as perfect, whole, and complete at all times. Perfect man, perfect God, perfect universe. Healings we've studied so far in the book of Luke. So let's just review, because I haven't been on the pulpit in a few weeks, and also people that are on. Oh, by the way, if you're on YouTube, you're always welcome here at Church of the Infinite Presence. If you're in Oklahoma City, our services are 10 o'clock for study classes, 11 o'clock for church. We're at 50th and MacArthur in MacArthur Square, right in the center of it. What have we studied so far? Let's review a little bit. Well, we reviewed a little bit about the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness, and showing that there were certain claims that must be reversed in order for us to see the truth of God and man. Note very clearly here that Jesus did not do many good works until he went through the desert experience. I want a second opinion, but that's the way it is. Sometimes you getting knocked around a little bit causes you to understand spiritual things a little bit better. Secondly, is the healing of the insane man. You know, he goes up into the mountain, and as I've told you so many times before, you get up there and you just are so happy with God, and all is well. God is in heaven and all is well. And you come down and an insane man meets you, or an insane experience meets you. It doesn't make any sense. You cannot make sense of nonsense. When I counsel with people who are having mental problems in their home, don't try to make sense of it, because you cannot make sense of nonsense. So Jesus comes down and he deals with the insane man, casts out the insane belief. Then there was the rebuking or the rejecting of the fever in Simon's mother-in-law's body. They come down, they want her, you know, as is the custom in those days. The woman always did the cooking. Well, one of the men wasn't going to do the cooking. They're too special. They're not going to do the cooking. She was supposed to do the cooking, and there she was laying in bed, sick. And so Jesus came to her and literally reversed the whole situation until she got up out of bed and served them. Now, he also dealt with divine provision. And that's important today. The economy in Oklahoma City, for all you on YouTube, is very good. Some of these people out there watching us have been out of work for a very long time. But understand clearly the provision of God for you. This is revealed in the book of Luke as catching of the fish by the disciples. Sometimes you try to make prosperity for yourself, but you're on the wrong side of the boat. And Jesus said to them, he watched them for a while. And this reminds me of a story. You like my stories? Sure you do. Years ago, I had to have a man come into the house and a company, and they had to cut limbs. And so the man who owned the place and owned the limb company and the tree company, we were talking on the back porch, and he looked out, and the man that he had cutting the limbs was sitting on a limb cutting it off.
Oh.
Now, I heard that as a joke before, but I saw it. And he said, if I didn't need this man so bad, I'd just let him cut it off. So he went out there. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm cutting the limb. He said, what do you think is going to happen when you cut that all the way through? And the man said, oh, I guess I better get back over here a little bit. So anyhow, Jesus watched these folks all night long. They're on the wrong side of the boat. Have you ever thought you might be in life like that? You're always on the wrong side of the boat. And he says to them, if you will just put your nets on the other side, you will catch all that you need. And all that they need, it was more than that. It was the nets began to break because they couldn't hold them. There was so many fish. Then it was the healing of the man laid on a mat and lowered down into the room where Jesus was lecturing. I think this is the most fantastic story of love I've ever heard. That these people would not say no. I mean, there was a big crowd of people in the house. Huge. All around the house. They couldn't get through. And so they jumped up on the roof. You see, they had an idea where nobody else had one. They jumped up on the roof, and the roof was kind of thatched, and they just tore it apart, which didn't make the owner of the house very glad, but it made everybody else that was going to be in this very glad. And they lowered the man down through, and Jesus healed him. You see, they forced the attention about this man onto Jesus. Isn't that the most amazing thing? They weren't afraid of the police coming. They weren't. They weren't afraid of anything happening. They're going to get beat up for doing this. They just lowered this man down in there. It shows the importance of insistence in healing. Insistence. A little boy was told that he had to pray for healing. And so he didn't know much about praying, and he said, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. And the father said, now that is a really dumb prayer to pray for healing, but the boy was healed. Why? Because he had insistence. He was going to be well, and that's all there was to it. Didn't make any difference what he said. Then there was this man with a shriveled hand. I don't think we get it much in these healings. That in those days, the DHS didn't exist. The hospitals didn't exist. If you had something wrong with you, a couple of things might be thought. It might be thought that you had some kind of a demon power in you causing this condition. Also, it might be that you have done something bad in this life or some other life and you're being punished with this. But one thing or another, you couldn't work. That's the down part of the whole thing. And often, relatives would have to take care of you. So he meets this man with a shriveled hand. And he says to the man something that is absolutely idiotic. Now, the man is like this, probably. He says to the man, somebody tell me? Stretch forth your hand. Now, I wonder what the man thought. He said, if I could have done that, I wouldn't have had to come here. But all of a sudden, there was something about the way Jesus said it that made this man move his hand. And he stretched it out. It was whole.